بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وله الكبرياء في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. To God alone belongs supreme majesty in the heavens and on earth. He is the overpowering, the all-wise. Alhamdulillahi kama yanbaghi لجلال وجه الله وعظمة ذات الله في كل لمحة ونفس عدد ما في علم الله حمدا دائما يدوم بدوام الله. Praise be to God as befits the majesty of God's countenance and the glory of God's essence in every blink of the eye and every breath that is breathed, the number of all that is encompassed in God's knowledge, with words of praise that last forever and forever, as long as the eternity of God. Our topic tonight is good and evil, the God of tsunamis. We live in a world of opposites, night and day, male and female, heaven and earth, happiness and sadness, up and down, life and death. Of all the opposites that surround us in the world, none are as drastic or as difficult to understand as the opposition between good and evil. The tension between good and evil exists in the greater world around us, the macrocosm, and the smaller world within us, the microcosm. When the angel Gabriel alayhi salam asked the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, "What is faith?" the Prophet responded and said, "An tu'mina billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rusulihi wal yawmil akhir wa tu'mina bil qadari khayrihi wa sharrihi." That you believe in God, His angels, His revealed books, His messengers, and the last day, and that you believe in the divine decree, what is good of it and what is evil of it. The hadith lays special emphasis on belief in the preordination and divine decree of good and evil, so that we understand that this is one of the most important of all religious beliefs in all times and in all communities, past and present. It is also one of the most difficult. We must accept it, we must believe in it. Belief in the foreordination of good and evil is the door to true faith, and it is the door to true spirituality. We are not required to understand it. This too is God's mercy, because it is difficult to understand, and it is easy to misunderstand. Full understanding of good and evil is one of the realities of the last day and the next world. وَلِلَّهِ الْحُجَّةُ الْبَالِغَةُ. On that day, God shall have the manifest proof against all creation. In this world, we are blocked from understanding the ultimate reality of good and evil by ourselves. We are blocked from understanding that by our egos. But in the next world, there are no egos. And in the next world, the truth is apparent to all. كُلَّ يَوْمٍ هُوَ فِي شَأْنٍ. At every instance in creation, God is doing something different. God is doing something new. We are required to worship God and to seek to know Him. But we cannot understand the full scope of His purpose. For this reason, our greatest scholars referred to the secret of good and evil as al-hikmatul majhula, the unknown wisdom, or sirr al-qadar, the secret of destiny. It is the great divine wisdom which we do not fully understand, and that most of us will never be able to understand in this world. And this pertains especially to those natural evils and those other types of evils and hardships that are very difficult to comprehend, such as pain and suffering, physical and mental impairment, sickness, and the death of children, things like the transatlantic slave trade, the oppression of whole peoples, and the eternal punishment of the fire. All of these things are manifestations of the foreordination and the decree of evil. And these are things that belong to al-hikmat al-majhula, the unknown wisdom that we will ultimately understand. We must believe that such things occurred by God's wisdom, although we do not fathom it. We must accept their occurrence and be content with God, but not content with the evil. We must believe that God's justice will be manifest in the end. We must believe that such things did not happen in vain. They were not void of purpose or meaning, but God willed them to be for some true and greater purpose. When we look at matters like this, at good and evil, we have to look with both eyes. And those two eyes that we look with in Islam and in all true prophetic religion are the eyes of Sharia and Haqiqah. They are the eye of the outward prophetic law and the eye of the inward prophetic truth of that teaching. By Sharia, by the outward knowledge of the prophetic law, we categorically condemn moral evil. And we are patient in the face of natural catastrophe. We stand against moral evil, and we help each other in times of trouble and calamity. This is what the prophets ordained. This is the outward law. We do not passively submit to evil just because God created it. The evil was created as a test. We resist it. We help each other in times of it because God made it a test for us all. And for this reason, jihad and mujahada are the great moral principles of Islam. Jihad and mujahada are the ethical imperative of all prophetic religion, not just of our religion. And as you know, the words jihad and mujahada, they come from the root to struggle. And always jihad, whether it is just war, or whether it is fighting oppression, or whether it is childbirth, or whether it is raising our children and educating our children, whether it is the struggle, the striving to have an honest living, all of these are aspects of jihad. And all aspects of jihad and mujahada against the self, the ego, they always have three aspects. The first is the goal of great good to be achieved. The second is obstacles that block the path to that goal. And the third is the necessary struggle to overcome it. So when the woman conceives the child, And she goes through all of the difficulties of carrying the child and giving birth to the child. That, as the Prophet taught us, is jihad. The goal that she wants is the great goal of bringing this human life into existence. The obstacles are all of the difficulties that she must face in that process. And of course, the jihad itself is the struggle that she exerts in order to meet it. Everything by haqiqah, when we look at evil from the standpoint of the inward truth of the prophetic teaching of cosmic reality, we understand that there is ultimate wisdom in everything that happens, good and evil, victory and defeat, success and failure. And these two categories, these two eyes with which we look, Sharia and Haqiqah, they must never be confused with each other. You can only see the true dimensions of things when you focus with both eyes. We must also understand that they complement each other and they never contradict each other. When we talk about the nature of evil in the world, then we are talking about haqiqah. We're talking about the inward truth of prophetic teaching. And then, in the light of that, we say that evil is never absolute. In this world, evil is never absolute. Good, on the other hand, benefit and mercy, these are cosmic absolutes. لا يستوي الخبيث والطيب ولو أعجبك كثرة الخبيث. Good and evil are not equal, even though the abundance of evil should overwhelm you. الرحمن على العرش استوى. God, the most merciful God, rules from the throne, and he rules with the rule of mercy and goodness. Evil, harm, and mercilessness are always qualified. They always come to an end. They are always transformed ultimately by justice and by mercy. Again, we say this by haqiqah and not by sharia. Thus, we condemn the transatlantic slave trade. We condemn the oppression of peoples and all things like that that are moral evil. And we stand firm in the face of calamity. And for us as Muslims, it was right and it was an obligation to do jihad against the slave trade, as, for example, the great Sheikh Nasr ad-Din did in the Senegal. But by haqiqah, we understand that as evil as this phenomenon of transatlantic slavery was, and then the slavery that came after it, we know that there had to be divine wisdom in that, and that ultimately it would bring good. Diamonds are created from coal, and the coal is put under pressure for years and years and years. Diamonds are not created from diamonds, they're created from coal. And this is the way also that evil, in the course of history, transforms into something else. And that does not pardon those who did it, nor does it belittle that evil that happened. All forms of evil, all forms of harm and of deprivation are ultimately tributaries in a great river of divine wisdom and mercy. They lead ultimately to mercy, to good, to benefit and perfection. This we know by haqiqah. It gives us content. It gives us adab, good courtesy with God, and ultimately it opens the doors of ma'rifah, of the knowledge of God, and having a close and familiar relationship with God. By haqiqah also, we reflect on evil and we see that evil is one of the testimonies of God's existence. if good and evil were independent categories, if they were necessary principles in a godless world, neither would have power over the other, and neither could be measured against the other. Self-sufficiency, necessary existence, divine being, these are attributes of God. They always imply perfection. There is no more or less. There are no degrees of better or worse. There is only absolute perfection and no imperfection. If good and evil were independent, necessary, self-sufficient principles, if they occurred by random, or if they were just there in reality, if they were not under God's supreme will as part of His great trial, nothing would be true or false. Nothing would be more appropriate or less appropriate. Nothing would be more seemly or less seemly. Degrees of beauty and ugliness would be meaningless. God's nature. We believe that God's nature is perfect and that universal mercy predominates over all His acts in history, in our lives and in the lives of nations, in this world and the next. God creates good and evil to test us, but God Himself is utterly good, and evil cannot be attributed to Him. God does not do evil. The Prophet said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in addressing God, وَالْخَيْرُ كُلُّهُ بِيَدَيْكَ وَالشَّرُّ لَيْسَ إِلَيْكَ. All good in its totality is in your hands, and evil does not pertain to you. All that God creates in this world, happiness and sadness, prosperity and deprivation, health and sickness, justice and oppression, good and evil, are functions of God's wisdom, His justice, His power, and His absolute freedom to direct and ordain creation as He wills. But the central truth in this, good and evil are always under the rubric of God's absolute wisdom, whether that wisdom is known to you and me or unknown in this world. God always acts in wisdom and holds Himself to norms of goodness and mercy and justice that He Himself has set for creation. We cannot judge God's acts in creation. We must have husn al-dhann of them. We must have good opinion of God and creation, to have a good opinion of your Lord, to have a good opinion of the creation that your Lord put before you. This is the highest act of worship. This is an act of worship of the heart, and it is the highest of them all. But we cannot judge Him. Human judgments are reflections of a limited perspective. Human judgments always involve our personal and social needs and our sense of benefit and harm. Our judgments are always subjective, and our judgments are always informed by extremely limited knowledge of what actually happens. God's judgments are comprehensive and cosmic. They take in our perspective, and they take in all other perspectives and all truths. God is closer to you than your jugular vein. He knows how you suffer. He knows how your people suffered. He knows what goes on. He knows the evil even better than you know the evil. And He is the one who will address it and who will bring justice in its place, or mercy. God shows us the ultimate truth of his judgment and the wisdom of his acts, of his decree, by setting our world of actions in all their imperfections against a spectacular background of harmony, of natural harmony and interconnectedness in all creation, and the rationality of ethical norms. So everything that happens in this world, it happens on a stage that is surrounded by the perfect creation of God in the heavens and the earth, the alteration of the day and the night, the creation of life, everything that we see in the world around us. And this is to make it very clear that the evil and corruption that humans do is an exception, and that it does not contravene the wisdom of the great God. In his divinity and lordship, God has the attributes of Jamal, beauty, Jalal, majesty, and Kamal, perfection. God's beauty, his Jamal, manifests itself in all that pleases us, all that is appropriate to our natures and our needs and our worries. It opens our hearts. It is his lutf. It is his benevolence, his grace, his giving, and his kindness. God's Jalal, his majesty, is all that is hard for us, all that is contrary to what we need, all that is contrary to what we yearn for, all that takes away from us what we so much desire. And it is an expression of his qahr. It is an expression of his denial, his constraint, his subdual, sheer force in creation, and his absolute sovereignty as Lord. God's perfection, his kamal, is the harmonious combination of Jamal and Jalal, of beauty and majesty in all things. No beauty in this world is without majesty. No majesty in this world is without beauty. God's greatest beauty to you is that he drew you near to him by his iqbal, by his turning to you and approaching you, by the lutf of his iqbal. And by this, he opened up your heart to receive the lights of Islam and of Iman, of certain faith, and your inclination towards ihsan, moral perfection, to strive to worship God as if you could see him. For although you do not see him, he sees you. In the end, this act of God's iqbal to you, of his approaching you and taking you and receiving you, this is greater than all that is in the earth, all that is in the world, all of the good and evil, and all that it contains. The nature of this world that we live in here, exists between two eternities: an eternal time that went before, alam al-dharr, the atomic world, when we existed only as spirit, and where we knew each other, where we were put in groups, in junud, of different types of people. And it is followed by an eternal time that comes after. And this world here, however long it may be, is a brief moment. It is just a cosmic litmus test to see who are you. Which one of these are you? How will you behave in this world? This world has a composite nature. The world before it and the world after it did not have that. The world before was pure majesty and beauty, and the world after this is pure beauty and majesty. But in this world, beauty and majesty are always mixed. It combines them perfectly to mirror God's wisdom. This is the perfection of the world. Beauty follows majesty. Majesty follows beauty, like the ebb and flow of the tide. This world is a place of trial and tribulation. It is a place of great good. It is a place of incomparable evil. They are mixed in this world, and they are sorted out in the next world. No one here is guaranteed safe passage. The love of this world, living exclusively for this world, being attached to this world, is madness and illusion and ignorance. And it brings great misfortune, great unhappiness, great suffering. Those who love this world and live only for this world are blind, as all the prophets of God have described them. And they live in a world of illusion on the brink of disaster. This world is Darul Akdar. This world is the land of dross and the dredges. It is the world of bad times and disappointments. It is followed by good times and happiness, and then it is followed again by bad times and disappointment. The test goes on, and it repeats itself, and it does not cease because it cannot cease. That is the nature of this world. That is its constant yin and yang. If you seek good in this world, you will find it to no end of good. If you seek evil in this world, you will find it to no end of evil. But mercy is the rule, and the test is inevitable. There will be inevitably earthquakes, wars, epidemics, disasters, hunger, floods, storms, chaos, and crisis. The good land becomes the evil land, and the evil land becomes the good land. This is the way that history works, and this is why the wise are always vigilant. Never take the good that you have for granted, because if you do not protect it, it will be transformed before your eyes. And all of this that happens, the natural desire, the natural catastrophes, and so forth, these are jalal, they are manifestations of majesty, but they correspond to our neglect, our forgetfulness, our pride, our oppression, our rebellion, our disbelief as peoples and societies. We have earned it, we have brought it on ourselves and on our children, and we also can unearn it. We can also turn things around. This world is Manzil al-Furqa. It is the place of departure, the departure gate. All of us have tickets home. All of us have departure tickets. All of us are waiting here in the waiting room, ready to leave. We have to leave this world with wisdom. We have to live in this world with wisdom and preparedness. We have to meet the evil inherent in it. That is our obligation. And we have to receive the good that is in it with thankfulness, with sabr. We have to endure with patience. We have to be content with what occurs. We have to accept it as coming from God. We have to rely on Him in tawakkul. And again, we have to have husn al-dhann, have a good opinion of your Lord in all times and places, and have good character, do good deeds. This is what averts the harm, and this is what keeps the good intact. But do not let any of the changes in this world take you by surprise. Be vigilant, be aware. Do not build your house on sand. Do not live in the make-believe of illusion. Nothing in this world lasts. Everything in this world changes. And those changes go back and forth between beauty and majesty. Thwart the evil in this world through obedience to God, through dua, through supplication, through your wird, your daily worship that you perform, good character, good deeds, husun, types of dhikr that protect you and your family, and being intelligent and wise. This world is the delivery ward for the next world, and the garden of the next world is the abode of unmixed, absolute Jamal for the people of Jamal. And the fire is the world of absolute unmixed Jalal for the people of Jalal. And these are two cosmic realities, and they are metaphysical necessities. You must make your belief in the hereafter the highest moral principle of your creed and conduct. Build for the garden, prepare for it, protect against the fire, put on the sandals of fear and hope, and walk the straight path with adab, with courtesy, and with knowledge. And then this world will show you its beauty. If you turn to this world, it will turn away from you. If you turn to this world, it will turn against you, and it will reject you in majesty. If you turn away from this world and you turn to God, then it will turn to you. It will come after you, and it will seek you in beauty. Human nature. We are agents. And this is something that all Muslim theologians agree on, although they interpret it in different ways. All of us are agents. We act, and we are responsible for our acts. We acquire good, and we acquire evil. We are not forced to be good, and we are not forced or constrained to be evil. We choose, and we are responsible for that choice. We are created good, as the world around us is inherently good, although it is mixed. We are created with knowledge of God and of goodness. We are created to be the vicegerents of God on earth, to be stewards and to set this world right, to make its environments flourish inwardly and outwardly. God says, وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. By the human soul and what made it perfectly balanced, and inspired it with its knowledge of depravity and uprightness. He shall surely succeed who purifies it, and he shall surely fail who conceals its goodness in disobedience. Your nature is composite, and yourself is a moral treasure, but like gold that is taken out of the earth and mixed with dross, it has to be put into the fire. It has to be tested in order to become pure. And in this verse, God uses the word ilham, that he inspired the self. He inspired us to know depravity and uprightness. And the word ilham in Arabic is only used for good. It's never used for inspiring people to know evil. And so therefore it means that God gave us through inspiration the knowledge of what is beneficial and good, so that he gave us a perfect moral compass. And we are also given knowledge, implicit knowledge of evil and of immorality, in order that we not be naive, and in order that we not be fools in this world, and so that we know the nature of evil, and we can live with it and be protected from it, but at the same time be tested, because we have a negative potential also. So if we want to be evil, we know how to be evil. That's in our heart just as well as goodness is in our heart. And in this world, there are four major obstacles that stand between us and between the perfection of the self. And those are the world itself, with all of its illusions, all of its difficulties, all of its tribulations. And then the people that we live with and that we live around, the ones that we want to be accepted by, the ones we fear to be rejected by, the ones who love us, the ones who hate us. And then there is also Satan and the hosts of Satan. And then fourth, there is the ego, the nafs. And as our scholars say, the ego is a greater enemy to you than 70 Satans. Our nature is mixed, it is composite in this world, and that's in order for the world to be a testing ground. God says in the Quran, وَخَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ ضَعِيفًا. The human being was created weak. وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. The human being was created weak. We are weak by virtue of our composite nature. We have intellect, intelligence, inherent knowledge of God. But at the same time, we have precarious bodily needs, psychological needs, sociological needs. We have fears, we have ambitions. We are small and we are great. We are mighty and we are abased. We are lofty and we are lowly. We are light and we are darkness. We are beauty and we are majesty. We are good and we are evil. We have tremendous capacity to do good. Nothing compares with us like that. And we have the same capacity to do evil, and nothing compares with us in that. We are the nafi' and we are the dar. We are that being that can bring tremendous benefit, and also we are that being that causes great harm. We are conquerors and we are the conquered. We are intelligent and we are foolish. We are oppressors and we are the fighters of oppressors. We are the oppressed and we are the liberators. God says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. Certainly we created the human being in the best of molds, and we reduced him to the lowest of the low. We are called to the highest perfection while being capable of the greatest imperfection. This is the secret element of the core of our amana, of the trust that God gave us specially, and of the vigilancy of human beings on the earth. And this is also the purpose of religion. It is said, Al-Jamalu Jadhib wal-Jalalu Hajib. Beauty attracts and majesty veils. God is beautiful and evil. Good is evil. Good is beautiful. Let me get that right. Good is beautiful and evil is ugly. Good attracts us to good. Evil veils us from good and from truth and ultimately from God Himself. God manifests Himself to us in His beauty. God is veiled from us in His majesty. But we must come to know God in all of His manifestations in creation. This is Tawheed. And this is the true muwahhid, the man or woman who knows God in all times and places, in all states and all stations. We must know Him in His beauty and give thanks. We must know Him in His majesty and be humble and patient. Those who know God only in Jamal, only in beauty, are like children. They are servants ultimately of themselves, although God accepts them. But in reality, they worship their own gratifications. As long as you give me what I want, I'm happy and I love you. And when you take away from me what I want, then I have changed. You must know God and you must be His servant as regards Him in all of His names and all of His attributes. You must know Him as Ar-Rahman, the All-Merciful, Ar-Rahim, the specifically merciful, Al-Quddus, the perfect one who has no defect and no peer, the Salam, again the perfect one who has no flaw, Al-Wahhab, the freely giving, Al-Razaq, the grantor of provision, Al-Basit, the one who expands us and makes us understand, makes us happy, gives us spirituality, Al-Rafi', the one who lifts us up, elevates our state, Al-Mu'ti, the one who gives us the things that we need and the things that we desire, Al-Nafi', the giver of benefit, Al-Mu'izz, the one who makes us powerful and glorious, Al-Muhyi, the one who gives us life, al-jameel, the beautiful. And yet also we must know God, and we must be firm before God as His servants when He manifests Himself to us as Al-Aziz, the all-powerful, Al-Jabbar, the compeller, Al-Mutakabbir, the supreme to whom all submit, Al-Qahhar, the compeller, Al-Qabid, the one who takes away and constrains, who makes us feel down and low, who makes life difficult, Al-Khafid, the one who puts us down after we were up, Al-Mani', the one who withholds and takes away, Ad-Dar, the one who brings harm, Al-Mudhil, the one who humiliates, Al-Mumit, the one who gives death, and Al-Jalil, the majestic. And ultimately, in knowing Him with His beautiful names and recognizing Him with adab, with His majestic names, then we know Him as Al-Haq, Al-Haq, God the real, God who is the foundation of creation, who makes reality be. He who does not love God does not know God in His beauty. And he or she who does not fear God does not know Him in His majesty. You must approach God with your whole being, and you must be present with Him in all of your states, in all of your situations of your life. You must be intelligent, you must be wise, you must be constant, you must be sincere. We make bread, at least in the traditional world, by taking salt and good flour. And our teachers taught us, make your action salt and make your adab your flour. Never claim to witness beauty without witnessing majesty and having adab with it. We have to talk about reality as it is. We cannot conceal the nature of the test. We don't live in a dream world of illusions. And to conclude, Sidi Ali al-Jamal, may Allah be pleased with him, he says, whoever would like to see wonders must work wonders. Then you will see wonders. If you want to see wonders, but you do not work wonders, then you are like a person who wants to pick grapes from thorns. May God, may Allah Azza wa Jal give us His knowledge, give us sincerity, and open our hearts, illuminate us with the light of understanding, and may He make us people who act and who work wonders and who become through that wonderful people who accomplish great things, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Wassalamu alaikum.